Good evening to all. Now we will move on to the fifth session. Thank you so much for investing your time with us on the Saturday evening. My name is Priyanshi Srivastava, a student at NMIMS School of Law, Mumbai, and Vice Curator at Indian Law Conclave. I am the moderator for the fifth session of the third Indian Law Conclave. Today, we have an amazing speaker with us who will be shedding light on the theme of emerging trends in real estate sector. Before we dive into the discussion, I would like to quickly brief you all about the structure of the session, simply to give you an idea of what to expect. The session is divided into three parts. In the first part, the speaker will share their thoughts on the topic for 30 minutes. In the second part, I will ask few questions to the speaker on emerging trends in real estate sector. And in the final part, the delegates will be allowed to ask the questions to the speaker by typing in the chat box section. So the topic about the emerging trends in real estate sector, the real estate industry has been one of the most prominent pillars of the Indian economy, with a contribution of close to 6 to 8% to the India's gross domestic product. It stands second in terms of employment generation. The sector has been at the cusp of transformation with policy changes, fallout of funding agencies, and their subsequent cautiousness towards residential projects, developers experimenting with new sectors and offerings. Today, we are delighted and honored that we have Mr. Sumesh Diwan with us. I'll start the session by introducing Mr. Diwan. Mr. Sumesh Diwan is the managing partner of Lex Favius. He is a corporate and securities lawyer with more than 20 years of experience in M&A transactions and cross-border transactions. Mr. Diwan specializes in foreign investment in India, project financing, corporate laws, joint ventures, cross-border taxation issues, technology transfer, securities law, SEBI takeover regulations, banking and finance, and has been advising clients on issues relating to acquisition of both Indian and overseas company, including the foreign exchange and other governmental regulation applicable to such transaction, which is filling applications and obtaining clearances with the various regulatory authorities, that is conducting legal due diligence, structuring the domestic and cross-border acquisition with focus on issues such as tax management, determining the type of SPV, jurisdiction of SPV, types of instruments, etc., which is advising clients on various laws, rules, and regulations applicable to setting up a business operations in India. Mr. Diwan is one of the few lawyers in India to be admitted as an honorary fellow of the Association of Fellows and Legal Scholars, that is Center for International Studies. He has been named by Asia Law Leading Lawyers as one of the most highly acclaimed legal experts in the Asia Pacific region in the practice area of capital markets and corporate finance. For more details about the speakers, kindly refer to the speaker handbook. So, Mr. Diwan, shall we begin with the conversation? Would you like to grace us with your introductory remark?
Hi everyone, this is Sumesh from Lex Favios. So as you rightly put, real estate sector is something which has been very robust and but it's a mix of controversies. So in fact, real estate sector is one sector which has, despite all the issues, is one of being the biggest pillar of the industry and the economy. You've actually seen something like 42.5 billion of foreign direct investment in the last 20 years. So I would, as an opening remark, I'll say, despite the COVID and despite the issues, real estate is still one of the biggest employers in the industry and brings in a great amount of foreign exchange and lot of foreign investment. So, to begin with, I would say, as I said, the Indian real estate, the trends have been very promising in terms of there have been projections that real estate sector would be reaching a market size of 180 billion. Typically in the last few years there was a dip and lot of malpractices were in the real estate sector. So the government brought in regulations like RERA, which was a game changer, and then the GST regulation being applicable to all real estate projects was something which really, led to the growth of real estate sector and had a strong economic impact on the sector. Typically, the government, also created a new niche or an area called affordable housing. In terms of affordable housing was a new set of laws and regulations wherein the GST on affordable housing or sorry, affordable houses was reduced to 1% from 8%, and the GST on projects which are under construction, the GST has been reduced to 5% from 12%. So typically, what is an affordable house? The government defines an affordable house or as a place of residence which has a carpet area of up to 90 square meters in non-metros and 60 square meters in metros, and a price tag of not more than 45 lakhs. So essentially what the government has done is they're creating a new niche or a segment where people, typically the salary class or the people who are being done typically not in a position to buy their own homes, they have created a opportunity called affordable housing. So if a house falls in a affordable housing, what happens is not only you get a lot of GST benefits, in addition to the GST benefits, the government has also announced interest waivers. As in when you go and seek a interest from a bank or a financial institution or a non-banking financial institution, NBFC, so all these have been given direction where a certain quantum of the interest on an affordable house is paid by the government. So there is something called a subsidy. So typically by creating a affordable housing segment, the government has boosted the demand. In fact, in the last 2 years, the biggest contributor to the real estate has been affordable housing, where a lot of large developers are shunning or leaving the luxury segment, which has not been growing, and moving to affordable housing, where a common man is in a position to buy a house. So typically, of course, while we are talking about the best practices and how real estate has been growing, the COVID-19 to a great extent has put brakes or stalled the way the real estate was functioning. In fact, if you see some real estate trends for the quarter July to September, the sales declined as much as 65% in the real estate. So of course that's been a big dampener, but now slowly we are inching and seeing the real estate sales are crawling back. But it doesn't mean that real estate sector is going away or there has been, it's still one of the main pillars of the economy, and real estate sector has been contributing. So now coming to the trends, what has led to the real estate sector being so much in the news, or what has the government, what type of laws and regulation they've been bringing in. So one is the most formidable and set of regulations is RERA, because RERA is something when you saw the investor confidence being very low, there being various malpractices in the real estate sector. So the government came up with a piece of legislation called RERA. So it was about 3 years back that RERA came into being. And what does RERA do? Any developer doing a project up to beyond a certain specified size, which is typically 500 square yards and above, so which not only covers smaller residential houses, which are over 500 the large residential houses and all projects, is required to register his project with the RERA authorities. So unless you register a project, no developer is permissible to do a launch. In fact, soft launches like pre-launch and have gone away, have been whisked away. The government has taken away power to anyone doing a pre-launch. So unless you have your approvals in place, unless you have a RERA registration, there is no advertising or no sales. So, however, and RERA has brought in some of the very fine, set of regulations where they say, only a maximum of 10% of money can be taken in advance from a buyer. What was happening earlier, not by way of pre-launch, 25-30% of the money was taken by from home buyers, and no construction was happening. Now the maximum amount that can be taken in advance on booking is 10%. That is also once a RERA registration is in place, and all updates on construction are required to be provided to the home buyers. So essentially, law of penalties for delay in possession and stringent penalties on developers are imposed. The allottee has been given a right to cancel his allotment at any time and seek refund, which was completely unimaginable before, by only forfeiting his booking amount. So even if a allottee has, let's say, or a home buyer has taken up a home and he's of the view 6 months or 1 year down the line, hey, this was a bad investment, or I want to pull away, I need my money back. So for no questions asked, he can go back to the developer who's under a statutory obligation by, after forfeiting his initial booking money, he has to refund the balance. And also in case, there is not only a defect clause, like, if defect, there is a defect in the ownership of the developer, then the entire money paid has to be refunded. So which is very, very unique, because there was an unheard concept where a government bringing in a law to say that if the developer or a private developer has no real ownership, or his ownership is defective, excuse me, the home buyer would not suffer. We are essentially making a home buyer. So now there is a complete protection being given to the home buyer. And also going forward, the real estate agents, because you had everyone fly-by-night operators, everyone was a real estate agent. So every real estate agent requires a registration now. Then one of the main, sorry, one of the key, one of the game changer is the creation of escrow. So essentially, 70% of the proceeds have to be deposited in an escrow account. 70% of proceeds have to be put in an escrow account for any project. So once a developer launches a project, he has to ensure that whatever money comes from the home buyer, 70% of the money goes in or deposited in escrow, and the money is only used for construction purposes. So in fact, this becomes a great stuff for home buyers, as they are insured of the earlier malpractice where the developer is not in a position to siphon off the money or misuse the funds. But it also causes a lot of pain and a lot of issues for a developer, as a developer typically cannot do a pre-launch. So when he cannot do a pre-launch, he spends a lot of money prior to launch. So then him pulling the money back from the escrow again becomes a bigger challenge. So developers are finding a ways and means, but there's also, so these are issues which has an impact on the cost, because since developers find it hard to pull back money which they have taken on interest, so therefore the cost of construction goes up. Now another very amazing clause is a 5 years defect liability period. So if there are any defects in construction for a period of 5 years, so this is not 5 years from construction, but 5 years from date of possession. However, the government did not give much of a view, or did not read the clauses carefully while drafting. It seems it was done in a premise that everyone would be given possession. That after the possession is given, everyone would be given. Sorry, once our construction is over, everyone would be given a possession at the same time. But what happens is, especially in challenging times of now, there are times when the construction is over, but a developer is unable to sell for 2 years or 3 years some of the flats. So that means the defect or the period for repairs or warranties goes up as long as 8 and 9 years, because it is 5 years from the possession, which entails ensures, or which entails the developers ensure that they keep a markup or they make the apartments a little more expensive to service this period of 8 or 9 years, because he would never be sure when he's in a position to sell. So these are something which can be seen as a blessing, but as a shortcoming, which ensures that the buyers land up paying a much higher quantum for buying a place. So typically, the RERA as a law, has a lot of emphasis on delays and penalties. So it says, once there is a launch, a person has to provide a timeline for completion. If the project is not completed within a specified time frame, he has to seek, builder developer can seek extension on valid grounds like force majeure or epidemic. In fact, the COVID coming into view, the government has extended the timelines for completion of construction by 6 months, which is to so that the developers do not have to bear the brunt or pay penalties. But the whole set of regulation is on penalties on the developers. But what happens if a developer is unable to seek approvals? So unfortunately, RERA, the biggest shortcoming of this set of regulation is that the government has never envisaged or put in a timeline where a government should provide the approvals in a time-bound manner. Whereas a developer is required to complete the project within a specific timeline and pay penalties for delay, but there is no provision. Let's say, so give you an example, a flavor like 40. If a developer is doing a project in Delhi, he requires approximately 41 permits or clearances. So if some of these clearances are not in place, he cannot complete or hand over possession, or he cannot be issued a completion. So which entails him to pay penalties. So which again, what happens is in reality, when you penalize a developer, he's only gonna increase the cost. He's gonna make a place more expensive. So the whole gambit of affordable housing goes for a six. That doesn't work. So we set up RERA authorities. First of all, it's been 3 years since RERA came into force. Now things are stabilizing. Most of the state governments, at least for a period of 12 to 24 months, did not have RERA authorities in place. The state governments have been given the power to make certain modifications to the regulations. So there's been some dilution by state governments. And the most challenging issue is there is a provision that if a developer is unable to complete the construction in a specified timeline, he has to pay penalties. But what happens? We have a RERA authorities. Some are non-functional, some are functional. So even if a RERA passes an order for delay in possession or a monetary compensation to a home buyer, can I actually, it's become next to impossible for a home buyer to go and get the money in real. In fact, as a real estate lawyer or I've personally seen so many cases, probably over hundreds of cases, where RERA authorities take very, very long in passing orders, or even once the orders are passed for possession or the compensation, the compensation quantum is never paid to the home buyer. Then he has to go and complain to the authorities. For example, like a RERA authority for Noida, the 6 in Lucknow. So a home buyer would go to some like Lucknow to file an appeal and to get his money. So therefore, the implementation of the law is still a challenge. There are certain shortcomings in terms of developers. Developers have their own set of shortcomings, where a developer has to pay penal interest even if the government is not giving him all the approvals. A developer cannot, has big challenges in raising money, pulling out money from escrow. A lot of developers have to borrow money at a very high rate of interest because the banks are over leveraged and would not lend to him. The GST on projects which are under construction is as high as 12%. So therefore, it becomes, so in fact, in a way, the government is penalizing people who chose or who choose to buy a house while it's in construction board, because once you buy a project which for where the construction is over, there is no GST. So therefore, and so therefore, the law is not getting a desired effect of creating the RERA has an impact. The real estate transactions have gone up in the last 3 years. People are, but there is still a long road or a long way to go, wherein the set of regulations are not, there are certain lacunas, there are certain shortcomings. The biggest shortcoming is how do you implement a RERA, anything passed by a RERA authorities? Are the home buyers getting the are able to execute the orders of RERA? The answer is no. So a lot of these are things which need to be kept in mind. And also the biggest challenge is like, the developers trying to seek extensions, because a lot of cases that it goes into a log jam because a developer says, because approvals were not given to me, I want to extend the timeline for possession. The home buyer says the timeline is over. So these things, when it goes before a RERA appellate tribunal, there becomes another set of challenge. But having said all this and said, we have a set of regulations called RERA. This law has been effective to a certain extent, and it can make further changes. And also, last but not the least, GST has been welcome, where the GST regulation imposes same set of GST on all houses across states, and gives a but and available, and developers are in a position to seek input credit. And it's a different case in many of the cases that input is not passed on to the home buyer, but putting a GST on houses which are not constructed is still a big dampener. So I would end my on the note that real estate is still one of the formidable and one of the big pillars of the industry, and the government has taken steps like RERA and GST to put the real estate sector in the right place. However, there is still miles to go before the consumer has 100% confidence wherein he can put in his money, and he's secure buying a piece of real estate. One of the things I would, before I leave, I like to mention, the government has been trending with one of the concepts called property insurance. We as a nation do not have a concept of property insurance, where you cannot walk away or walk up to an insurance company and say, please give my insurance on my home on ownership. If there is a defect in ownership, there is no insurance for the same. A lot of developed countries like US and Europe, they have a very simple concept of property insurance on the ownership. So these are issues which the government needs to wake up and realize that, once you bring in property insurance, you reduce the GST on real estate, there's gonna be a big peak. It's gonna, because once the real estate starts selling more, it leads to more job creation and the entire economy grows. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir, for your insights. Sir, I have few questions based on the discussion.
Yeah, please.
Thank you, sir. So the first question is, sir, how, in your opinion, will the SEBI approval for real estate investment trust platforms benefit the real estate scenario? Additionally, how attractive do you think the Indian market is for foreign investors when it comes to real estate investment trust?
So first and foremost, to answer on the RERA trust, so it's been, setting up real estate trusts or real estate funds, it's been a very welcome stage, because what is happening is, for the last few years, the real estate sector has been, as I discussed, the developers and the home buyers are all under stress. So there are huge a number of projects. As you walk away into any metro city or non-metro, you have projects which have not been completed, and a lot of these foreign buyers or the bigger real estate trusts are looking to acquire and complete these projects. So once the SEBI grants permissions to these RERA trusts and listing of these RERA trusts, wherein a lot of money is poured in from various sources to complete the project, it's gonna be a welcome change. And secondly, I believe you were asking about the foreign investment in these trusts.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So again, as I said, the foreign investment means something. You have something like $42 billion coming in the last 20 years, which is not, despite there being no RERA trust. So once the concept of foreign funding or a foreign money coming into the real estate commences, which been very slow till now, it will it will create a great value addition, because what is happening is we have funds like Blackstone and a lot of these large global funds who have now very interested in investing in real estate, and a lot of developers who have stuck projects. So we personally come across so many projects which are stuck up, and the big RERA funds or the big global developers or developer global funds are very keen to acquire these projects and complete. And it's not only good for the developer, for the economy, and for the home buyer, because once this money comes in, each of there are millions of home buyers whose projects are stuck. All these projects can be completed without any government intervention and with by foreign investment.
Right, sir. Thank you so much. It was really helpful. So the next question is that a trend has recently identified in the sector is the rise of ownership, as you mentioned earlier. So how do you think this will impact the real estate sector? And also, do you think the industrialists and builders are ready for such a change, keeping in mind the fact that the construction and other work has been on a halt for the most part of this year?
So you're talking more about the home buyers becoming more active.
Right, sir.
Yeah. So that's again a very welcome change. So as I said, there were a lot of malpractices in the real estate sector where the projects were stalled, the money was siphoned off, the promoters were not answerable. With the RERA coming in, it was the first time a set of regulation came where you had a RERA authority. It's a different question how effective it is, wherein you can go and question the developer that why have you not completed the project. And so the last 5 or 6 years, now the home buyers are forming groups. They are forming their own welfare associations. They are taking the developers who are big and mighty heads on, because the individual home buyer was never able to question the developer. But when you have 100 or a few hundred home buyers coming and filing a case and pooling in resources, so they are able to get the developer heads on and make sure the developer delivers on his promises. So I'll say the developers or the promoters are not very happy with this development, because it's the first time in last 20-30 years they are being questioned, because they were never used to the home buyer being so active. But yes, it's a very welcome change, because the home buyers are getting more aggressive in asking for what they were promised. And also with this change, the biggest gainer will be not only the home buyer but the overall economy, because once a common man has that confidence that I can form a group or an association and reach out to the promoter and get my penalties or get my money back, you will see a much more investment in real estate.
Right, sir. Thank you, sir. So the last question from my side is, so it's a viewpoint-based question. So, how has the RERA regime evolved the real estate framework in India? Has it been a positive change so far?
So I would say the RERA has been a very positive change, because before you had RERA, you had no law. Typically reaching out to the promoters or making ensure they, you had all sort of malpractices where there were pre-launches and actually there was never a launch. Home buyers are stuck with money. So some of the issues like I discussed, putting 70% money in escrow, giving a confidence to the home buyer, there won't be any pre-launches or law of restrictions on developers to complete project within a defined timeline and registration of the projects. These are very welcome changing. But having said this, I'll also say the RERA still has a very long way to go, because one of the key issues, what happens when a developer delays, he is liable to pay a certain amount to a home buyer. But still, unfortunately, the RERA authorities are not very effective. But yes, I'll say at least you have a RERA authority in place. So the only thing the government needs to do is to make these RERA authorities much more effective and ensure the home buyers that the penalties being imposed are recoverable. So the recovery of penalties is still a big challenge. But I will also say, there are every set of piece of legislation or law which comes in, it's only been 3 years, has its own set of challenges. And as I say, RERA is a very positive law and it's a step in the right direction. And hopefully the government will take much more measures to ensure that this law becomes much more stronger and stringent.
Right, sir. Thank you for your viewpoint. So now we open the floor for the delegates to ask questions. We already have one question from Ms. Prerna Mohapatra. Her question is related to the current situation of JPE companies, that is the Jai Prakash company, going bankrupt, and the buyers of the various housing societies of JPE has not yet received the possession of the houses. In such case, what should the buyer do?
So, hi, to answer your question, first of all, JP was, in fact, JP was one of the first few cases. Now you have, again, like, which I, you have a forum called NCLT. So, wherein you can invoke insolvency proceedings against the home buyers. So, it's both the home buyers. If the quantum of amount is over 1 crore, it's an individual or a collective home buyers. It's a home buyers or the banks. So in what happened in the case of JP was the banks or the creditors of JP filed an insolvency petition, which can also be filed by a set of home buyers now. And the government has now changed taken over insolvency through an insolvency process. A new management has brought in place. So JP has a new management where the promoters have been asked to leave the company, and the new set of management is trying or endeavoring to deliver the projects. So to answer your question, when a situation like JP arises, you have a clear-cut piece of legislation or law called the insolvency proceedings against the bankrupt promoter, and which has been very effective in the case of JP.
Right, sir. Thank you. So we have another question from Advocate Kumar Vaibhav. He asked that has the enactment of RERA has got a positive impact for FDI?
Absolutely. So a lot of, as you asked me a question earlier, because it is through RERA only, which is giving confidence to most of the foreign funds to inflow and set up, acquire the projects in the country. So foreign direct investment, very fair, the foreign direct investment has been slow in the real estate sector, but with the coming of RERA regulations, you have Blackstone and a lot of these JP Morgan and a lot of large global funds who are seeing a big spread or seeing a big investment in the real estate. In fact, if you've been reading the newspapers in the NCR, in Bombay, in Bangalore, a lot of stuck projects are being acquired by these big, large global funds who would now be endeavoring and after taking over these projects, they'll be completing the project. So yes, to answer your question, RERA has led to more foreign investment in real estate.
Thank you, sir. So now, before we move to our closing remarks, I would like to request you to give a short message for our audience to take away.
Yeah, so thanks for having me over. And the short message is, going on the real estate flavor, real estate is one of the most formidable and sector, and with the RERA has been a very effective piece of legislation, but with some more changes, it can become much more effective.
Right. Thank you, sir. It's time for us to conclude the session. I would like to thank Mr. Sumesh Dewan for joining us at the 3rd Indian Law Conclave.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
I would also like to thank our audience for being so patient throughout the session. I would like to thank our sponsors and media partners for making ILC a huge success. The recorded video for the session will be soon uploaded on YouTube. Don't forget to check it out. We look forward to have you with us tomorrow as well. The session will start from 2:30 p.m. onwards. Bye and take care. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, sir.